Hello there, good morning, um, especially to Mr. Olushola, Architect Olushola, who requested for this video. I'll try to make it as straight to the point as possible. Problem statement: I am an architect and I want to send a job which I started on Archicad, a project which I started on Archicad, to a non-Archicad user, probably for continued editing and inputs. Now, I would quickly want to mention that there are different ways this goes on, as there are different users of Revit. If you're going to be sending to a structural engineer, he might not need so much of the furnishings, he might not be so much interested in the doors and windows. There are cases where he might be, then again. So, it varies from person to person, so there is no one exact way it's going to get done. I'll just try and run through the simplest means. Alright, to push forward, I would want to introduce us quickly to what is known as the IFC format. It's a readable format for BIM softwares like Archicad, Revit, Plan, Vectorworks, and so on. And this format is the means of being able to move jobs from one to another. I hope you got that right. Yes, so I'll be heading right now as well. So this is a sample project I'll be using. As much as possible, I try to make sure it had all the elements that Archicad has to offer, of course, except for the shell, the skylight, and curtain wall mesh, and so on. But then this looks like this on 3D. There was not much time actually, based on the at least perceived urgency of the request. So what are we looking out for when this guy gets to Revit? One, the hierarchy of elements. If you're going to convert this to a DWG file and send to the Revit user, he no longer sees these as walls, rather he sees these as lines with fields, hatches, as the case may be, which is not what we want. We want him to be able to see this as a Revit wall family, which he's able to edit and keep moving. He wants him to be able to see this as a loaded family object in Revit. We want him to be able to see this as a Revit stair. We want him to be, and truth be told, let me say that very early, we are not going to achieve all of this. Archicad and Revit are not that seamlessly interchangeable. No. Some of the information, some of the data that we have here is going to be lost along the line. So let's just head straight into it. I think I've said too much. To change this into something readable by Revit, and by the way, let's keep in mind, they also want him, because there's an existing method that most people easily recommend online out there, wherein he is able to see most of these, but then annotations like the text, the dimensions, in some cases the grid lines, in some cases fields, which just reminded me, let me quickly add a field somewhere here. It's not based on need, it's just at least let me just fill up this lobby area. I think I could just do it this way. Okay, for this my current override, I guess fields appear like this for now. So let's see if keeping it this way could influence things. So this would probably something like this. Perhaps something like this. Yeah. So at least I'm not interested in beautifying this so much. I just want it to be that when I open in Revit, I see something that looks as much like this as possible. And my friend who is using Revit, something I would never do. Don't ask me why. In fact, if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's crap. Alright, so that's Revit. Okay, so yeah. Step 1, Control Shift S. After, make sure you saved your job already. Control S normally for that, then Control Shift S. That's step 1. Then among your file options here, click on the Save As type, this guy down here, and look for IFC. Not IFC XML, not IFC compressed, not IFC XML compressed, not IFC structural, whatever. IFC. Okay, then you just go to your options, pick a translator. After you pick a translator, then you do what? You choose the elements to export, and then you say okay, give it a name that you want, and say okay, and that is it. This was a prior video. This was from a prior video I had done. There was some errors, so I chose to just overlook that. Alright, now you might easily say, hey bro, you didn't save that, you didn't export, you didn't convert. Yeah, that's right, because I mentioned something called the exporter. Observe again, this guy, the translator, not the exporter. This translator tells Archicad what and what is Revit supposed to see. So it's very helpful you set up your translator. I've done that for mine before, so it might not really apply to you, but quickly, sorry, you don't meet your translators from here. You go to File, Interoperability, IFCs, IFC translator. Alright, so these are the translators for export. There's also translators for import, in case you're getting something probably from Revit, and that could be quite helpful as well. So general parametric import, blah 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 blah. We're going to pick this one, and then we are going to create a new one based on that. Alright, so or we just say a brand new translator for exporting, not a duplicate. Okay, so I'm just going to name this new translator. Alright, so the IFC schema, please, these are the settings for the translator on the right here. Honestly, it looks quite simple here, but there's a lot more, and I'll try to deal with them as quickly as possible. IFC, make sure it stays on 2x3, not 4. Why did I say not 4? For this tutorial, I'm using Archicad 25, and I'm going to make use of Revit 2018 as the target Revit. Now, when I start the target Revit, whatever I'm doing here should apply to most versions of Revit, at least from 215 and above. But Revit 218 that I'm making use of for this tutorial does not have the required, let's say, updates to correctly interpret IFC4. These are IFC schemas. The schemas in quotes are the versions of IFC and how much information, or the way the information is encoded. A good example of that would be just the way we have Archicad 25 and Archicad 24, 23 and so on. Now, if you'd finish the job in Archicad 25 and you send it to someone using Archicad 23, it's nearly useless to that person, because it's supposed to be stepped down, it's supposed to be converted, it's supposed to be, should I say, reverse engineered or something like that. So you get the point. So for Revit 2018, and I would advise not just this, in case you're doing it, stick to lower versions. So even if higher versions of Revit like Revit 2022, 2023, 2021 and below are used, they are all able to access the file you've exported. Okay, so keep it here, we're not changing anything here. Next, the model coordination view version. Now that's just retain it to custom, but that'll change on its own later on as you move ahead. As for the model filter, click right here. Okay, so we don't want this, we want all elements. When you click on all elements, find out that everything here is accepted. It says that, yeah, I want everything that I've done on Archicad to be exportable to Revit. Now, I didn't really create layouts here, but if I did, they would also be exported. Okay, so even the grid lines are going to go, the lines, text, label, fields. Observe, there's nothing like dimension here. We have dimension somewhere here on the drawing. Wow, so how do I know that my dimensions are going to go? Well, that's the problem. Archicad is going to break this down to its basic form. These lines, these witness lines with the dimensions, they become literal lines that Revit is going to see. Each of these annotations for the dimension sizes, they become literal, like yeah, literal text for Revit. Sorry for that sound. So Revit sees this as long line, small dash line, text saying 0.100, another long line, another small dash line, a horizontal line, and so on and so forth. Sorry, for the meantime, we don't have much control beyond that. So if it's just dimensioning that is going to be redone on Revit, I would suggest you send it directly as an IFC file. Don't be too worried about the translator, but if more editing needs to be done, then yeah, this could help. Then again, if it's the working drawing that's to be done on Revit, just don't waste your time. Know how to negotiate with whoever it is that you're sending this to, so that you could do it yourself if you're unable to. More stress for both of you. Alright, so the compatibility tells us that okay, this is going to be compatible with, observe these guys by the way, that's these guys right here, specifically this guy. I told you it would change as time goes on. So some of the settings we are going to make while we are looking at these guys right here, one of the settings we are going to see while using them could affect some of these guys. You might see some errors popping up here, like this guy was saying here, saying hey, for the coordination view, surface geometry, whatever, not just whatever, model view definition, that's these MVDs right here, that what you set is not compatible with it. And then again, no problem, we're not going to make use of that. We're making use of, for now, the coordination view version 2.0, and it is compatible, so that's not a problem for us. And that's under IFC 2x3 schema. Of course, we're using that. For IFC 4, we're not even using this, so we are not here to think of that. But then again, if you still want, you could override settings. Be careful with this just in case. Alright, so for now I think I'm done here. As for this last drop down, this preset is currently used to for the following translators. That's these presets I have done so far. How many translators can give me exactly what I have requested for? There is this one that says Revit everything export. It's a translator I created sometime in the past. You might not see, you will definitely not see it on your list. There's also this Archicad to Revit I created. You would not see that on your list as well, so don't worry, don't panic, you don't need them. As long as you go through this process, all will be well. Alright, so okay, we're done with this. Did I cancel? Yeah, I did. Big mistake. Alright, so all elements. Okay, change this to all elements. Next is the type mapping. Just keep it here, don't change that. So now it's IFC 4, we're using IFC 2x3, so that shouldn't be much more stressful than it looks like. If you tap on this, by the way, which you might have observed when I did, you get this also long set of settings here, and when you click on this guy to map IFC type to export, it tells you that this type is going to be exported as this type. Observe that the products are in IFC, not in Revit families. It's important to keep that in mind. So majority of what we are going to be moving around, they are going to be the elements. There's the construction element. Walls will be translated into wall types, columns into column type, beam into beam type, slabs into slab types. Roof doesn't have anything that it's going to be translated to. So what does that tell us? After this is done, this is one of the imperfections I mentioned earlier. The roof is still going to show up in proper geometry on Revit, but it's not going to display there as a Revit roof. No. If you're moving to all plan instead, it's not going to show as an all plan roof. It's not going to show as a Vectorworks roof, and so on and so forth. Rather, it's just going to show there as one generic model, aka for Archicad, morph. Yeah, that's right. So keep that in mind, and so that's where you get to know what and what would remain intact when you go, what and what will not remain intact. Then again, if you're bothered about what else we are seeing in this list, the things like the footing, the things like the pile, the things like, don't stress yourself too much bothering about that. These are also other possible. Remember, IFC was not created only for Archicad. It's created not only for architects as well. Everybody in the building industry, down to electrical engineers, down to mechanical engineers, down to structural engineers, down to even architectural engineers, for those of us who know their jobs. Alright, so that said, next word, just okay, the roof, probably covering. Now this covering are like those claddings that SCAD could give us, but keep in mind you don't want to toy with that quite easily. Probably, if need be, request another video where I would come treat this guy. Yeah, it's requires, in my own opinion, the video of itself, just in case you have lots of CAD image coverings and claddings on your walls, your roof, and so on. Their classification system, remember we are dealing with classification right now, it's slightly different. Alright, so cutting wall goes to cutting wall type, stair goes to nothing. There again, you see our stairs are not going to be compatible after conversion. Railing, okay, railing still remain, cutting walls still remain, and that is more of, that's like that. Then for the openings, doors go to door style, observe, no longer door type. Windows to window style, no longer window type, which of course if you're using IFC4, if you're using IFC4 schema, please, I don't want to click on this right now because it's going to ruin a lot of things for me, but if you're clicking on that, this option down here, this one that is like blurred out, it would be visible. Alright, so next, for these elements, I don't care about all of these right now. They are not really too much for architects. So we're like, okay, okay. Alright, next, property mapping. Yes, we are going to use IFC 2x3 properties, but then again, we just want to be sure which of the IFC 2x3 properties are going to be used. So when you click on this, yeah, this can be quite disheartening to look at. There's a list of settings here, there's a list of settings here, and there's supposed to be rules you're gonna create here. Good news, they've been done for you already, so just quickly click X here or cancel here and get back. Don't go ruin things. Right? Data conversion. Data conversion says how are these things going to be converted. You click on here as well and say you want all BIM data, emphasis on that. Every data that can be converted, let them go. Don't let anyone stay behind. And you say okay. Then the unit conversion, of course, metric, millimeters, angular degrees, and then currency, USD. One might be wondering, what are we converting in currency? Well, you could contact me directly for that and I would be able to help you out with that. But keep in mind, Archicad could be used properly by architects for costing, and when you're doing that, the standard for the international version of Archicad, the standard currency used in Archicad is the USD. So you wanted some other currency just in case, or some other units in case your engineers, your partners are not working with millimeters, which I don't know why they'd be doing that. You get to click whether it's the meter, the inch, and then for degrees whether it's the angles or the radians, this. So for currency, there's a whole lot here. There's the kata, there is this, there's this. Pick what works for your company. Yeah, unfortunately, as we can see here, the Nigerian Naira doesn't exist. I don't know, maybe we are not yet up to their standards. Don't go tell anyone I said that. But then again, you could add that to the list using your classification manager. There's a classification manager which you get if you go click options, then it should be the third in the list here. It's an process getting to that entirely, and that's not the goal of this tutorial. So probably we'll do that some other time. Now we're done with this translator. We've set all of these, and so far no errors. If there are errors, you'll be seeing them coming as some yellow triangles around here. So like, okay, now that we're done with this, let's go and save again. Control Shift S. Yes, so for the Control Shift S, now that I've done that, what do I want to export? Please just go to this option right here and say on elements to export. Take note, what and what do you want me to export? That is what is being requested here. Answer the entire project. I want everything gone. Model filter, for example, what and what. As you can see, everything here is clicked right in, and it's saying there's about 313 elements. So it's counted the number of doors, windows, and all of these, and say in total there are 313 of them. Don't come changing anything else here. As long as you have it on entire project, you're good to go. Next, what translator do you want to use? So we just created a new translator that was named new translator. So say I want to use the new translator. Okay, if you named your own Shola's translator, change it to Shola's translator, and so on and so forth. So you say okay, so now we have this entire project. Try to not miss that. Then I'm also going to be naming this IFC for Revit. Okay, now that I've done this, just take note of it. If it's going to stay on my documents folder, save and wait, hopefully not too long. Yeah, Archicad is quite wonderful at handling IFCs. Let me praise them for that quite quickly, and I just saved the job just in case. Now I'll be going to Revit to open it. This could be a pain. If you're not a Revit user, please have patience with them. If you don't know what those people go through, if you can evangelize to them, preach to them, let them leave Revit and come to Archicad. I'm giving this as professional advice, not as Archicad lover, Revit hater. Honestly, I don't know why they use this software. I don't know why they use this. Okay, that's open. So go to file, go to open, then go to IFC. There you get to pick an IFC file you want to open. By the way, when I said documents in my own computer, it's not this document. There's another document folder I have, and I just made a shortcut for it there. So IFC for Revit. This, yes. So please ensure that auto join elements. Don't forget this. Ensure very carefully that both of these are checked. They might not be in your own computer, all right, or in your own version of Revit or so on and so forth. Just ensure that and click open, and then wait again. While we wait, we'll probably listen to some music. Okay, let me say quite quickly before this finishes up that this actually demands a lot of job from your processor. If you observe right here while you're working, you see that hey, this guy is working at like 3.5 gigahertz, and that's like almost the extreme for my computer. So in case your fan is out there roaring, yeah, don't be angry with your system. It's just how things are supposed to turn out. It's quite a stressful process for a bit. So it's giving me these warnings that some elements that it cannot remain joined. So yeah, unjoin them, no issues. Now that we have that here, see, wow, the field, it got through. Okay, Revit is seeing it as a field region which is extensible, as we can see. I'm going to undo that. Next, our walls. Yes, they also show up as walls in Revit. Wow, and you could do probably edit the profile. You could, so you see the work is quite editable over here. And then there's there's even this stair. This was cut at the level of this guy just in case. There's this guy, the grid lines, there's the text. All looks good, all looks good. Okay, let's check the 3D out. Glorious. Alright, let me mention the first thing I would want to observe on the 3D. Look at the lines. I warned you about them when we were working on, like, hey, remember, the lines are going to be converted in Revit into 3D elements. You get to see them on your 3D. So sometimes, in fact not just sometimes, I advise allow whoever is working on Revit to annotate, at least in terms of dimensioning, by themselves. Okay, observe your windows. The corner window I placed here, which was done on purpose to let you understand that it's not going to translate that properly. Corner windows got split into two different windows. And again, we're not going to cry too much about that. Let's see for 3D. If we change this to consistent colors, let's see. We even got the Archicad colors, not the texture though, but at least the colors came through. That was quite comforting. Take note, I mentioned the colors, not textures. If you want to see textures in Revit, you go to realistic, and honestly, nobody likes seeing this thing. I don't know how Revit have still not taken care of the fact that this guy shows up in monochrome. This is like since Revit 14. But then again, IFCs is not so much of their strong points at the meantime. So yeah, there's this other smaller guy over here. Was that supposed to be a car park or warehouse? I can't remember again. Alright, so that's exactly how it's done. Hope you enjoyed the process. As I said, for each of these elements, here's the column, still has a column, editable completely. Observe all of these guys hanging around. Then yes, our slabs are no longer slabs. They are now that thing I told you, generic model. You can't really edit them. You could either delete them or say move them around, but they are like Revit families or like Archicad objects, and objects whose parameters are no longer alterable. Too bad for them and for us. Okay, so also observe concrete fascia. This was created as in Archicad as beams. Let's quickly look at that. I made use of beams to create the concrete fascia. Open this here. Okay, so observe that this is seen as a beam element, and then I use a complex profile to make it have this shape and this texture. Just in case you also want to know how that is done, I have a tutorial on that. But then observe that they are transformed into structural framing in Revit, not beams. And that simply means we can't have them joining properly like this. So if you're like, so what's gonna happen? Here's what's gonna happen. Tell your engineer, tell your friend, tell your architect who's using Revit, you should cut a section through this, get to see the section of this, create a sweep. Revit has that option, and then you can have its concrete fascia back. Hopefully that shouldn't take him forever. Shouldn't even take much time. Alright, so we can see our furniture from somewhere around here displaying properly. I think I should just create a camera to see the inside a bit. How long has this video been, just in case? 28 minutes. I'll try to tidy up with 30 minutes. So architecture, okay, floor plan, ground floor. Also observe that our levels came in, our elevations as well came in. That's quite important. Okay, so we're looking for a camera. I think we're gonna make use of this guy. Like, okay, let's see a little bit of this bedroom. Yeah, let's extend this, extend this, extend this, probably this. So we even have our objects showing up as Revit families, Revit furniture. So yeah, all good. If you found this quite useful, please share to others who might be going through the same problem, and like this video. It's quite encouraging for me to know that whatever it is I'm doing here is helpful to someone out there. That's the messages your like passes to me. Alright, till next time, I remain Architect Frank, or KC, whichever you prefer to call me. See ya!